On the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival, I set a table full of food, waiting for Eric to come home, but he didn't even glance at the dishesh, simply started packing his suitcase. With a cold tone, he said, "This year I won't be able to spend the festival with you." I didn't answer, just kept eating my crab in silence. At midnight, just as I had expected, Eric's ex posted a story on her WeChat. In the photo, she was smiling, resting against Eric's back with the full moon shining through the window, and the caption read, "Raising a glass to the moon, reflected as a couple." I didn't make a scene, didn't demand an explanation, I just gave it a casual like. Almost immediately, Eric called me, a hint of panic in his voice. "Don't get the wrong idea. I swear I'll spend it with you next year." I stayed silent for a few seconds, smiled faintly, and didn't reply. Next year, Eric? There won't be a next year. Chapter 1. Eric came home after the holidays were already over. In the past, I would always go out to the garden to greet him, but not this time. He texted me, "Where are you?" I was having lunch and replied without much interest, "At home, eating." Shortly after, he walked in with his suitcase. As he took off his shoes, he said, "I'm hungry. Make me some noodles and a soft-boiled egg." Before, I would have done it without hesitation. This time, I answered calmly, "I've already eaten." Order delivery. Eric shot me an annoyed look, but held back his anger. "I know you're still upset about the festival, but don't make a drama out of it." "I'm tired. I just want to eat." I gave him a slight smile. "I'm not upset." He didn't believe me. Nicole is alone in Beijing, and it was the festival. I was just keeping her company out of courtesy. I replied coldly, "I know." He stared at me as if trying to read my soul, then lowered his gaze and asked, suppressing his irritation, "Does it make sense for you to act like this?" "I'm exhausted. I don't want to argue. Could you be a little more understanding?" I looked at him and explained patiently, "I'm not arguing. Are you done? I need to wash the dishes." Eric pulled a necklace from his pocket and handed it to me. Looking down at me, he said, "A gift." The necklace had no packaging, very different from the one Nicole had flaunted online in its luxurious wrapping. I showed no emotion, only said politely, "Thank you." And nothing else. He frowned. "Is that all?" "That's all," I replied coolly. His face darkened. He held out his hand to me. "And mine?" That's when I remembered. "Sorry, I forgot. I'll send you a hongbao. Buy yourself something." I sent him 200 yuan on my phone. His eyes widened. He clearly hadn't expected that. I'd always cared about details. Exchanging gifts at every holiday was a tradition. And even if he sometimes forgot, I never did. The atmosphere turned tense. I went to the closet, changed clothes, and headed for the door. Eric shouted, "Where are you going?" I answered calmly, "To meet my friends," and closed the door, ignoring his calls. Since I started dating Eric, I'd given up all social gatherings just because he said he didn't like me going out partying. My friends had stopped inviting me. Everyone knew my home had rules, and I always canceled. But now I could finally enjoy being with my friends again. Chapter 2. At the end of the gathering, my friends teased me half-jokingly, "We thought you'd already traded us for a man." "Don't do that again, okay? Men come and go, but friends are forever." I nodded firmly. "From now on, if I have time, I'll be at every meetup. I promise." Since I'd been with Eric, my whole world had revolved around him: work, daily routine, everything was for and about him. And in the process, I lost my circle and my friends. Looking back now, what a foolish decision that was. I glanced at my phone. Eric had returned the hongbao I'd sent. When I got home, it was already 3 in the morning. I turned on the light, and there was Eric sitting on the sofa. For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating. Seeing me drunk, he didn't get up to help, he just looked at me with disappointment. In a tone dripping with disdain, he said, "Jessica, can you grow up a little? If you're jealous, just say so. You're a married woman coming home drunk at this hour? Do you think that's normal?" My head was spinning as I leaned against the wall and made my way to the sofa. Eric smelled the alcohol and frowned slightly. "Didn't I tell you I don't like your friends? You went out with them again? And anyway, what happened with Nicole isn't what you think. We're just friends now. You didn't have to overreact because of her." I held my head, annoyed. "You really overestimate yourself." I was just happy to see my friends and had a few drinks, that's all. He lost his temper. Enough. I've already given you a dignified way out. What more do you want? Don't test my patience. I'm not a saint who can tolerate you forever. My head was pounding, and his voice made it worse. I rubbed my temples. Are you done? If so, I'm going to sleep. Eric took a deep breath, trying to calm down. He stood up and reached out to help me, but I pulled away. With the last shred of clarity I had, I knew I didn't want his touch. I staggered into the guest room, locked the door, and ignored his knocking. That night, I slept deeply more peacefully than I had in a long time. The next morning, he was still on the sofa, silent, his face dark. I knew he was angry, but I didn't do anything to comfort him. I washed up and left. Chapter 3. I went to the dance studio and handed in my resignation. The only reason I worked there was because it was close to home. It made it easier to take care of Eric. But now that didn't matter anymore. My teacher tried several times to convince me to stay, but I remained firm. Last week, one of the international dance companies I'd applied to replied they accepted me. That company had been my dream since I was a child, but I had turned it down back then because of Eric. Thankfully, it wasn't too late to chase that dream. After quitting, I finished handing over my remaining work and called my best friend to share the news. She was thrilled, but then asked, "And Eric? Does he know? Is he okay with you leaving?" I smiled calmly. "No, he doesn't know. This time I'm leaving alone." After wrapping up at the studio, I began preparing the paperwork for my trip. My parents are divorced, and aside from a few childhood friends, Eric was all I had in this country. I used to think, wherever Eric is, that's my home. But not anymore. Now I have no home. I'm like a drifting water lily. Wherever I land will be my home. When I came back, Eric was about to head out, dressed in a flawless suit with a dark green tie, looking striking. In his hand, he held a birthday cake. I understood instantly today was Nicole's birthday, and he was going to celebrate with her. He was on the phone, his voice cheerful. "Stop guessing. If I tell you, it won't be a surprise. Just wait for me, I'm on my way." I don't know what the person on the other end of the line said, but Eric burst into loud laughter, that wide grin that shows his teeth, the kind of smile so simple and yet so rare when it comes to me. He kept laughing until he saw me, and in that instant, his smile vanished as if switched off. For Nicole, he grants every little wish, but for me, he won't even offer a smile. His face hardened instantly. He didn't say another word, just turned away with disgust, hurriedly put on his shoes, and the only thing left was the sound of the door slamming shut. I already knew what was coming, another one of Eric's Cold Wars, always because of Nicole. In the past, I would have run to make peace, desperate to reconcile, even when he ignored my messages, always turning the other cheek. But now, I simply started looking up foreign recipes and practiced cooking alone in the kitchen. I need to start adapting already. Chapter 4. Lying in bed, I saw Nicole's latest moments post. "Another year. You've given me my birthday gift again. Thank you for always being by my side." The comments were pure flattery. One of Eric's friends wrote, "So exciting. I love seeing Nicole so happy." All of Eric's friends had liked it. All of them. They had always despised me, believing I was the intruder between Eric and Nicole, that if I didn't exist, Eric would be much happier. I saw Eric's own comment. "Happy birthday, my little princess." Without a flicker of expression, I kept reading through his sugary words. One of his friends even commented, "Stop posting or Jessica might see and make a scene." Before, I used to speak softly to Eric, asking him to keep a little distance from Nicole. After all, she's a woman and misunderstandings are easy to create. But his friends would say I was too jealous, too controlling, that I didn't even let him have friends. And Eric? He never defended me. He'd just nod, then later tell me that women should be more generous. But this time, I didn't react the way they expected. I simply closed the app, opened some short videos, and drifted off to sleep. When Eric came home, I was already in a deep slumber. He woke me up by shouting, "Jessica, your man is out late, and you don't even care? My friend's girlfriend has been calling him nonstop, and you? Not even one message. What's wrong with you, huh?" Chapter 5. I looked at him in confusion, not understanding what had set him off this time. Before, I always did exactly what he wanted, and still he'd say, "I'm dating you. I'm not in prison. Please give me some space. You're suffocating me." Now that I give him his space, he complains I don't care enough. I have no idea what he wants anymore. But I didn't bring up the past. I just answered calmly, "You were with your friends." If I keep calling you, it sounds intense, doesn't it? You and Nicole are friends, there's nothing to worry about. A spark of surprise flashed in his eyes, maybe because he didn't expect me to mention Nicole so calmly. He quickly composed himself and said, "That moment's post, it was just a memory. Don't think too much. It didn't mean anything." I shook my head about to speak, but Eric cut me off.
What?
"You think I shouldn't have gone to her birthday? Nicole and I have been friends for 10 years. Yes, we dated for a while, but now we're just friends. And as a close friend, of course I went." I looked at him with understanding. "I get it. It's late. You should rest." Eric stayed silent, staring at me as if trying to read whether I was truly not upset. But after a while, he found nothing. He tried to wrap his arms around me, but I silently pulled away. I asked coldly, "Will you be sleeping in the master bedroom or the guest room?" Chapter 6. Eric was stunned. I had never rejected his touch before. Before, I had craved it desperately. Embarrassed and irritated, he slammed the guest room door shut and ended up sleeping in the master bedroom. As soon as he left, I fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. Ever since I stopped overthinking, sleeping had become much easier. The next morning, the director of the dance group called me. I have no idea how he found out I was going abroad. He said he wanted to host a farewell party for me. I hurried to refuse, but then he suggested a small gathering with the group members. By that point, I couldn't say no. What I didn't expect was to see Eric there too, though it made sense, since he's the director's nephew. What I truly didn't expect was to see Nicole with him. Even at a simple colleagues' gathering, Eric brought Nicole along. The moment he saw me, he shot me a look and gestured for me to come over. I completely ignored him. They looked perfect together, better not to ruin their moment. Nicole glanced at me and smiled brazenly, then switched to a fake polite tone. "Oh, sorry for crashing your gathering." I was so bored, and Eric decided to bring me along. Chapter 7. Eric tried to explain himself several times, but never actually said anything. I raised my glass politely. "It's fine. I really don't mind." Then I lowered my head and took a sip of wine. During dinner, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I checked it, it was all messages from Eric. I only brought her because the occasion came up. Don't take it the wrong way. If it bothers you, I won't bring her next time. And the last one. When dinner's over, let's go home together. I cleared my throat, looked down, and replied, "No need. You take Nicole. I came by car." After that, I focused on my food and didn't look at Eric's messages again. Everyone was in high spirits, reminiscing about old times. The director of the dance group, eyes red from alcohol, stood up with emotion. Raising his glass, he said, "Back then, you were the best dancer in the country. Your dream was always to join a great international company. But suddenly, you decided to stay, and no one knew why." He paused and smiled. "But now at last, you're going to fulfill your dream. You're going to soar high, and that fills me with joy. Let's toast a path filled with light." I smiled with genuine emotion, clinked my glass, and drank it all in one go. At the table, Eric froze as if he had just heard something impossible. Chapter 8. "Uncle, what do you mean she's going abroad? What do you mean she's leaving?" Eric's voice trembled with tension. The director, unconcerned, replied, "You didn't know? Jessica's leaving the country. This dinner will probably be the last time we see her. Who knows when the next time will be." The director didn't know Eric and I were in a relationship, so he wasn't surprised by his ignorance. Eric's eyes were bloodshot. Without thinking, he stood up and pulled me out of the room. I leaned against the wall, watching him silently. He spoke first. "You're leaving? What does that mean? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't we talk about it?" His voice trembled, his eyes filled with disbelief and fear. I answered calmly, "Oh, that. Well, when I got the news, you were busy taking Nicole to Disneyland. I didn't want to bother you." My tone was polite but distant, and with that, the gap between us became an unbridgeable chasm. Eric froze in embarrassment, but still took my hand and said, "It doesn't matter. I'm still your boyfriend. Something like this, you should have shared with me." I raised my eyebrows in surprise before I told him everything, even the smallest details, and he would just say, "I'm not interested in your stuff. Stop sending me nonsense that clutters my memory." Eric sighed almost inaudibly. After a few seconds, he asked, "How long will you be gone?" I thought about it and lied. Maybe 2 or 3 years. I had never planned to tell him. Today was an accident. Eric froze. That long. I nodded slightly. The air grew tense. Suddenly, Eric sighed and said, "After this, let's go home together, okay?" His eyes shone, waiting for my answer. I was about to say no when Nicole walked out of the dining room, her gaze unfocused as she leaned into Eric's chest, completely drunk. Eric looked at me nervously, trying to push her away, but she clung to him. He stammered, "She's drunk normally, there's no contact between us, I swear." But that explanation only made him look worse. I nodded calmly. "Yes, I know." Nicole, swaying, said, "Eric, I feel dizzy. Can you take me home?" Chapter 9. Nicole's alcohol-laced breath brushed against Eric's neck as she spoke, and yet he didn't pull away, he only gave a resigned grimace. He had told me many times he hated the smell of alcohol, but apparently, if it was Nicole, it didn't bother him so much. Eric didn't respond to Nicole. Instead, he looked at me and said, "Wait for me a moment. I'll get her a car and then we'll go home together, okay?" Before I could answer, Nicole groaned again in his arms, resting her head against his chest with a practiced familiarity. Seeing that, I said calmly, "No need. She clearly needs you more than I do tonight. I'll go home alone." Eric tried to say something, but I was already on my feet, saying goodbye to the others and leaving the restaurant with steady steps. He tried to follow, but Nicole grabbed his arm, keeping him there. I ordered a car and headed home. I'd been drinking, and the alcohol was already fogging my head. Sitting in the back seat, I stared at the city lights through the window. Suddenly, everything blurred, and a few tears escaped without my control. How ironic, I can't even remember how many times Eric has put Nicole before me. So many that I've grown used to it. Seeing couples walking hand in hand on the sidewalk, I couldn't help but remember that Eric and I used to be like that once. The car kept moving, and those images like our memories slowly faded away. When I got home, I received a message from Eric. I dropped Nicole off at her place. She wouldn't stop throwing up, so I might not come back tonight. Chapter 10. I stared at the screen for a long while. As far as I can remember, this was probably the first time Eric had ever informed me of what he was doing. Before, if I asked how many people were at a gathering, he would already be irritated. Do I really have to tell you every little detail? Don't you think that's exhausting in a relationship? I used to have to beg him for hours to calm down. He even repeated over and over that I should stay out of his business. I replied coldly, "All right." But Eric kept justifying himself. Nicole wouldn't stop vomiting, and it was really late, so I stayed. "Please don't take it the wrong way." I replied again, indifferent. "Okay." After that, he didn't text me again. That night, I ended up vomiting several times in the bathroom. Turns out Nicole wasn't the only one who had drunk too much, I had too. I'm used to beer, but that night, with just a bit of liquor, I was already drunk. It wasn't until the early hours of the morning that I crawled back to bed. I couldn't sleep well. I tossed and turned, and woke up the next day with dark circles under my eyes. Eric came home at noon. I was eating some soupy rice I'd ordered. Before, he would have scolded me for eating that junk, but today, surprisingly, he came over and asked, "Is it good?" I looked at him in surprise and nodded. He sat across from me, meeting my eyes. You don't know how hard it was taking care of a drunk woman. As soon as she sobered up a little, I came straight home. His tone carried guilt, but I didn't confront him. I just replied calmly, "Oh, then it must have been hard for you." A flicker of discomfort crossed his face. He hadn't expected me to be so agreeable. His smile grew strained. Then he said, "Tomorrow my friend Oliver is getting engaged to his girlfriend. We're invited to the party. Come with me, okay?" Chapter 11. Hearing his invitation, I looked up in surprise. Before, Eric would never have taken me to that kind of even his friends didn't like me, which was why he always brought Nicole. Back then, I would have jumped for joy, already looking for something to wear. But now, I kept eating my soupy rice without a hint of emotion. Better not. I don't want to ruin your friend's party. Eric's smile froze. The hand he'd extended to me hovered in the air before he awkwardly lowered it. He tried to reassure me. You're my girlfriend. He won't have a problem with you. I looked at him, and to my surprise, this time he seemed sincere. I remembered the time his friends humiliated me by comparing me to Nicole. I had looked at Eric, pleading for support, but he ignored me. When I brought it up later, he said, they didn't say anything untrue. If you're my girlfriend, shouldn't you at least get along with my friends? If you can't even do that, what good are you? But he always knew that the way his friends treated me depended entirely on how he treated me. I cleared the table and said casually, tomorrow I'll be busy. Why don't you invite someone else? Eric was stunned. He clearly hadn't expected me to turn him down so easily, much less suggest he take someone else. Before, I would have begged for that opportunity. But I wasn't lying. I really was busy tomorrow. I still had important paperwork to finish for my trip abroad. The hope in his eyes dimmed, his smile vanished completely. Nervously, he asked, and what will you be doing tomorrow? If you want, I can go with you. Chapter 12. I answered calmly. Tomorrow I have to handle some formalities for my trip abroad. I can't skip them. Your friend's event is important out of friendship and commitment. You should be there. I'll be fine on my own. Eric hesitated for a moment, then cautiously asked, so, if you're not going, can I take Nicole? In the past, just hearing Nicole's name would have made my blood boil, but now I simply smiled. Of course. He studied me closely, searching for any trace of jealousy, but found none. Unable to resist, he asked, Jessica, why aren't you jealous? I looked at him, thinking how strange it was. Wasn't he the one who hated it when I got jealous? Still, I answered, why should I be? She's your friend, and she gets along well with your friends. Isn't it normal for you to take her? Eric opened his mouth several times, but in the end only murmured, then tomorrow morning I'll take you to handle your paperwork. I thought for a moment, and agreed. I was still feeling a bit dizzy from the night before, and having a driver wasn't a bad idea. Seeing me nod, Eric tried to take my hand, but I pulled away. His face showed both confusion and discomfort. I explained, I didn't sleep well last night. I'm going to rest for a bit. You should too. Without waiting for a reply, I went into the bedroom and closed the door. The next morning, Eric got up early and made breakfast. After we ate, he grabbed the car keys, ready to take me. Sitting in the passenger seat felt strange. It had been so long since I'd ridden in Eric's car. I remembered that rainy day when I'd forgotten my umbrella and asked him to pick me up. He frowned and said, You're an independent woman. Don't depend on men for everything. What's wrong with getting a little wet? Later, I saw in Nicole's moments that he had gone to pick her up that very day. After that, I bought my own car and never asked him for anything again. Now, in the car, he played the music I used to like and tried to start conversations. I just smiled politely and went along. We hadn't gone far when his phone rang. Nicole. His expression tightened as he kept glancing at me to gauge my reaction. I noticed and said calmly, Answer it. It's fine. Nicole's sweet voice filled the car. Eric, I'm ready. Are you coming to pick me up? Eric immediately replied, Call a taxi, please. That surprised May had never heard him refuse Nicole before. Nicole hadn't expected it either, but she didn't give up. Eric, you know I live far out. I can't find a taxi. Besides, you've always been the one to pick me up, haven't you? Chapter 13. Nicole insisted, If you don't come for me, I'll have to walk. Doubt flickered across Eric's face. If this had been before, he would have already asked me to get out of the car, saying, We're downtown, it's easy for you to get a taxi. Nicole lives farther away, I have to go get her. You can go alone, okay? Seeing his hesitation, I spoke considerately. Go pick her up. Just drop me off at any corner. Eric quickly said, And what about you? No, I'd better take you first. I smiled naturally. I'll get a taxi. Really, drop me here at the corner. I pointed to the sidewalk. Eric hesitated for a second, then finally pulled over. Before I got out, he said, I'll be home early today. I nodded. He looked at me again, concerned. Are you sure you can get a taxi here? If not, I'll forget about Nicole. I looked up at him and encouraged, I'm fine. Go, or you'll be late. Eric's car drove away, leaving a puff of exhaust behind. I want to take care of my paperwork. Checking the date on my phone, I counted on my fingers 5 days left before I leave the country. Back home, I scrolled through short videos. One showed Oliver kissing his fiancée passionately, while people around them cheered for Eric and Nicole. Oliver laughed. Bro, it's your turn. You've got a great woman next to you, didn't waste her. As he spoke, he glanced at Nicole, who blushed shyly. But in the video, Eric looked uncomfortable. Just then, a message from him popped up. Jessica, did you see that video? They were just joking, don't be upset. I replied calmly. I saw it. It was just a joke. I'm not upset. He didn't respond again, and of course, he didn't come home early. I didn't wait for him, had dinner, and went straight to bed. Near noon the next day, Eric finally came home. I didn't ask anything. Sitting on the sofa, I simply said, I didn't cook. If you haven't eaten, order something. While taking off his shoes at the door, he explained, everyone was having such a good time last night. They wouldn't let me leave, so I stayed at the hotel. Before, Eric would disappear all night often, but he never gave me explanations. I responded with a simple, and kept watching TV. After changing, Eric sat on the sofa, rubbed his temples, and asked, So, when exactly are you leaving the country? Chapter 14. I said calmly, next Monday. I already have the ticket. The air grew heavy. Then Eric broke the silence. He looked at me, visibly agitated. Jessica, I think we need to have a serious talk. I can't stand this way of being with each other anymore. I looked at him in confusion. What's wrong? Isn't this what you always asked for? Wasn't he the one who wanted me to be more understanding? And now that I am, it still isn't enough? Eric frowned. Is this about Nicole? I didn't answer. He pressed his lips together and continued. If my relationship with Nicole bothers you, I can cut off contact with her. For you. But please don't keep acting so indifferent. Can we go back to how we used to be? His eyes reflected a plea, as if he'd just made a life-changing decision. I replied slowly, You're overthinking. I really don't care anymore. Who you choose to see is your decision. I have no right to interfere. But inside, I was surprised. I never imagined Eric would offer to cut Nicole off so easily. Before, no matter how much I cried, argued, or even asked to break up, he never considered distancing himself from her. He froze, staring at me. I've already made a big concession, he said. If you don't believe me, I'll call her right now. He pulled out his phone, put it on speaker, and dialed her number. Nicole's cheerful, enthusiastic voice came through. Eric, did you miss me? Chapter 15. Nicole's words flowed out naturally, and Eric's face tightened with discomfort and nervousness. He quickly interrupted. Enough, Nicole. Stop joking. Nicole clearly hadn't expected that. Surely, this was the way they always spoke to each other. She fell silent, surprised. Then Eric said, Nicole, I think we should keep our distance from now on. After all, I have a girlfriend. Nicole looked at him as if she had just heard the most ridiculous joke. What did you say? Repeat it, please. Eric took a deep breath. I said it's better if we don't talk so much. Is that clear? His voice was firm. Nicole paused, then let out a sarcastic laugh. I see. Your controlling girlfriend must have made another scene, right? She's so insecure, probably doesn't even have friends. That's why she envies us. With every word Nicole spoke, Eric's face darkened further, and I could only imagine how many times they must have spoken ill of me behind my back. At last, Eric snapped. That's enough. Get a grip. Jessica is my girlfriend. You have no right to talk about her that way. From now on, don't contact me again. Let's end this on good terms. Without waiting for a reply, he hung up. The phone rang again immediately, but Eric didn't answer. Instead, he looked at me, his gaze lowered, his voice soft. See? I've already left her. From now on, let's focus on us. I'll stay home, behave, and wait for you. I promise. He raised 3 fingers, as if making a childish oath. I froze. I had planned to break up with him the day I left the country, but now, maybe I should do it sooner. I opened my mouth ready to say it. Maybe you won't need to wait for me. We should, But before I could finish, Eric lifted his hand and gently covered my lips. I looked at him. His eyes were red, brimming with tears. Chapter 16. A soft, rhythmic sound hit the floor. I realized it was Eric's tears. Before, I would have rushed to wipe them away, my heart breaking, but this time I did nothing. I just watched him in silence. So, even someone like Eric could cry for me? With a trembling voice, he looked into my eyes. Jessica, let me go abroad with you. I knew that by saying that, he was making an immense decision. His whole family, his friends, his career, everything was here. If he came with me, he would have to leave it all behind. I turned my face away. I thought I had no feelings left for him, but in that moment, my heart ached again. Still, I spoke with difficulty. I'm sorry, Eric. Please don't do this. Eric moved closer and wrapped his arms around me, his tears soaking my shirt. Jessica, I'll give up everything for you. I love you. Take me with you, please. I used to be weak, but this time I pushed him away. Eric, it's over. We've always been from different worlds. And now I'm tired. I just want to return to mine. Eric's tears didn't stop. His voice was hoarse, desperate. No. I won't accept that. If I don't agree, it doesn't count. I gave a bitter laugh. You should be happy, shouldn't you? You never wanted to share your life with me. You didn't want me to control you. Well, from today on, no one will. Eric gripped my shoulders, pleading, I promised you. We'll spend every holiday together, I swear. I pulled his hands away, still wearing that sad smile. What a pity, because there will be no more together. Chapter 17. Eric cried without restraint, clinging to me, repeating that he wouldn't accept the breakup, that he wanted to leave with me. I didn't have the strength to keep arguing, so in the end I gave in. He held me tightly, eyes filled with joy, as if he'd just regained what he feared losing most. And I let myself bitterly savor that final embrace. One morning, I packed my suitcase in silence. When I opened the door, I looked back. Eric was still fast asleep. In a whisper, I said, goodbye. I took one last look around the home we had shared. If all went as planned, that would be the last time I ever saw it. This time, I was leaving the country for good. My plan was to stay abroad. I went alone to the airport by taxi and sat waiting to board. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. It was message after message from Eric. Where are you? Where did you go? Why aren't you answering? I'm at the airport. Where are you? I want to see you. As I read them, my eyes filled with tears, but I didn't reply. I put the phone away. I didn't have the courage to see him one last time. After all, he was someone I had loved deeply. The messages kept coming, but I ignored them. I sighed and walked toward the boarding gate. Then a voice tore through the air behind me. Jessica, how am I supposed to live without you? It was Eric, shouting in despair, as if his soul had shattered in that moment. Chapter 18. My back stiffened, but I didn't look back. I crossed through the boarding gate, pulled out my phone, and saw his last message. Jessica, you lied to me. I let out a bitter smile and replied, you lied to me so many times. I guess this time it's my turn. I remembered every time he swore it was just a normal gathering, that Nicole wouldn't be there, and I always ended up finding out the truth. I remembered how much it hurt to be deceived again and again, and I wondered, would he feel the same way this time? When I landed abroad, members of the dance company were already waiting for me. They took me to a small apartment. It wasn't big, but it had everything I needed. I didn't reply to Eric's messages. I blocked him. There was no point keeping him in my life anymore. From that moment on, he would no longer be part of it. A year passed. I adapted to life in the United Kingdom. I made new friends. I achieved my childhood dream. But one dream, the one I'd had when I was older, never came true. I had dreamed of marrying Eric, of building a family with him. But that dream was destined to die. One day, in the middle of work, I got a call from an unknown Namera domestic line. I knew who it was. And still I answered. On the other end, Eric was crying so hard, he could barely breathe. In a trembling voice, he asked, it wasn't really 2 or 3 years, was it? You lied to me again, didn't you? I paused for a moment, then answered calmly, I'm not coming back. Eric, please don't call me again. I hung up. And with that, I cut the last thread tying us together. I looked out the window at the towering buildings beyond the glass. From that moment on, Eric and I became parallel lines destined never to cross again.